Hey there, I'm glad you're here. Tonight we're going to drift into the world of ancient Chinese mythology, a place where dragons soar through misty skies, phoenixes rise from sacred flames, and mysterious spirits roam quiet forests under the moon. Just relax, breathe slowly, and let each tale carry you deeper into rest. There's no rush here, only calm, wonder, and sleep. Dragon. In the vast expanse of the ancient skies, where clouds danced with the wind and the stars whispered secrets to those who would listen, there lay a sacred mountain, hidden from mortal eyes. This mountain was not ordinary. It was said to be the birthplace of the celestial dragon, a magnificent being born from the very breath of the heavens and the pulse of the earth. For centuries, the dragon had been slumbering deep within the heart of the mountain, resting in a cave carved from jade and crystal, surrounded by an aura of shimmering light. The world below had forgotten the dragon's existence, and with time, the legends became mere stories told by elders around fires. Yet the dragon's power remained, a quiet force waiting for the moment to awaken. The land around the mountain was lush and alive, filled with rivers that sparkled like liquid silver and forests that hummed with the songs of countless creatures. Villages dotted the valleys, their people living simple lives in harmony with nature, unaware of the guardian that rested above them. Seasons changed and years passed, but the balance of the world was beginning to shift. Storms grew fiercer, the rivers ran wild, and the earth trembled with unease. It was a sign that the time was near for the celestial dragon to rise once again. Deep within the jade cave, the dragon stirred. Its scale shimmered with color that mirrored the dawn, gold, crimson, and sapphire, blending seamlessly like the sky at first light. Its breath was slow but steady, filling the cavern with warmth and light. Around the dragon, ancient runes glowed softly, the language of the gods etched into stone and crystal, binding the dragon's power until the world truly needed it. The celestial dragon had been charged with maintaining balance between heaven and earth, a role that required patience and great strength. Now, sensing the turmoil outside, the dragon's eyes flickered open like twin lanterns in the dark. As the dragon's mighty form stretched, the mountain trembled with the force of awakening. Cracks appeared in the jade walls, letting beams of sunlight flood into the cavern. The dragon rose, its great wings unfolding with a sound like thunder rolling across the skies. From its whiskers to its tail, every part of the creature pulsed with ancient magic. The dragon lifted itself out of the cave and soared upward, breaking through the clouds with ease. Below, the villagers looked up in awe as the sky darkened and then brightened again, as if the day itself was bowing to the dragon's return. The dragon's flight was majestic and purposeful. It circled the mountain 3 times, a ritual of rebirth and protection, before setting off toward the sacred river, a lifeline that flowed through the heart of the land. This river was believed to be blessed by the dragon's ancestors, its waters pure and teeming with life. But now the river was troubled. The dragon could sense the poison creeping into the currents, the corruption spreading like a shadow, threatening to consume all that was good. As the dragon approached the river, it saw the damage wrought by careless hands. Factories belched smoke into the sky, trees were felled without mercy, and the river itself carried the stain of waste and neglect. The dragon's heart ached for the land it was sworn to protect. With a mighty roar that echoed through the mountains and valleys, the dragon summoned the winds and rain. Storm clouds gathered rapidly, lightning crackling across the sky. The rains came down hard, washing away the poisons and cleansing the earth. The river began to sparkle once more, its waters regaining their clarity and vitality. Yet the dragon knew this was only the beginning. The balance was fragile, and there were darker forces at work. In the shadows of the forests, creatures born from greed and hatred stirred. These beings sought to control the land for their own selfish ends, poisoning its heart with lies and destruction. The celestial dragon, however, was not alone. Spirits of the mountains, rivers, and trees awakened alongside the dragon, joining forces to restore harmony. The dragon journeyed deeper into the forests, where the oldest trees whispered ancient wisdom. It met with the spirit of the oak, a towering guardian with bark as hard as stone and leaves that shimmered like emeralds. Together they wove a protective shield around the forest, ensuring that no harm could come to it while the dragon was near. The dragon then sought out the spirit of the river, a graceful figure who could bend water to her will. Their bond strengthened the life-giving flow that sustained countless beings. Days turned into weeks as the celestial dragon and the spirits worked tirelessly to heal the land. Wherever the dragon passed, life flourished. Flowers bloomed in forgotten meadows, animals returned to their homes, and the skies cleared of their dark veil. The villagers, witnessing these wonders, began to remember the old stories, their hearts filling with hope and reverence once more. But the greatest test was yet to come. From the depths of the earth, a shadow rose. The black serpent, a creature born of chaos and destruction, long sealed away beneath the mountains. It had fed on the corruption spreading through the land, and now sought to overthrow the celestial dragon and claim dominion over heaven and earth. The serpent's scales were dark as midnight, its eyes burning with malevolence. It hissed poison and despair, its very presence wilting the trees and silencing the birds. The two ancient beings met on the peak of the sacred mountain, where the sky met the earth in a clash of power and will. The dragon's roar shook the heavens, the serpent's hiss shattered the silence. They fought with fury and grace, their battle lighting up the skies with fire and shadow. The dragon breathed flames that glowed like molten gold, while the serpent struck with venom the corroded stone and spirit alike. The struggle lasted for days, the land trembling beneath their might. The villagers watched in awe and fear, praying to the heavens for protection. The spirits of nature lent their strength to the dragon, their combined power forming a shield against the serpent's dark magic. Finally, with a final burst of light and fury, the dragon unleashed a blast of pure energy that engulfed the black serpent, binding it once more beneath the mountain. Exhausted but victorious, the celestial dragon let out a triumphant cry that echoed across the world. The skies cleared, the earth healed, and balance was restored. The dragon, knowing its duty was never done, returned to the jade cave to rest, its heart filled with hope for the future. The villagers, inspired by the dragon's power and wisdom, vowed to protect the land and live in harmony with nature. From that day forward, the celestial dragon's legend was reborn, a beacon of strength and balance for generations to come. The mountain remained sacred, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the light of the dragon would rise to guide and protect the world. High above the valleys, where clouds drifted like soft silk, the misty mountains rose in endless peaks, cloaked in thick fog that hid secrets older than time itself. Among these ancient peaks lived a great dragon known far and wide as the Celestial Dragon, a creature born from the very breath of the heavens. His scales shimmered with the colors of dawn, shining gold, crimson, and deep jade. His eyes burned like molten amber, filled with wisdom and power beyond mortal understanding. The dragon was revered and feared, for his strength shaped the weather and his breath could bring life or destruction. But the dragon was not yet complete. Though born of celestial fire, he had to face the trial of the misty mountains, a sacred challenge that would test his spirit, courage, and heart. This trial was given by the ancient spirits that guarded the mountain realm, unseen forces that maintained the balance between the earth and the heavens. The trial was not one of mere strength, but one of endurance and humility. Many dragons before him had failed, swallowed by the shadows or turned to stone by their own pride. Only the worthy could pass and rise to their full glory. The trial began at the break of dawn. The dragon soared from his cave, his wings cutting through the thick mist like blades of wind. The air was cold and sharp, carrying the scent of pine and wet earth. He had to climb the tallest peak where the ancient altar lay hidden under centuries of moss and stone. The climb was perilous, for the mountain itself seemed alive, shifting and trembling underfoot. Storm clouds gathered above, dark and threatening, as if the mountain wished to challenge him. As he ascended, the dragon faced the first test, the winds of doubt. Fierce gusts whipped around him, trying to push him down into the abyss. These winds carried voices of fear and failure, whispering that he was not strong enough, not worthy of the power he sought. The dragon's mighty wings beat against the storm, but the cold doubt tried to seep into his heart. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the wind and the voices. Instead of fighting blindly, he breathed deeply, centering himself with the rhythm of the mountain. He opened his eyes and soared with renewed strength, trusting his spirit to guide him through the storm. Next came the trial of shadows. As the dragon climbed higher, the fog grew thicker, turning the world into a swirling sea of gray. Shadows appeared from nowhere, dark shapes that danced and mocked him. These were the fears hidden deep in his soul, failures, loneliness, and anger, made real by the magic of the mountains. They slithered like snakes, trying to bite at his scales and cloud his mind. The dragon did not lash out in anger, for he knew that fighting his fears would only give them power. Instead, he faced each shadow calmly, recognizing them for what they were, parts of himself that needed understanding and forgiveness. Slowly, the shadows faded, and the mist began to clear. As the sun climbed higher, the dragon reached the narrow path carved along the edge of the peak. Here, he faced the trial of balance. The path was thin and treacherous, with nothing but air and clouds beneath. One wrong step could send him plummeting into the void, but the trial was not only about physical balance, it was about balancing pride and humility, power and mercy. The dragon moved carefully, feeling the ground beneath his claws and the wind steadying his wings. He remembered the lessons of the mountain, the need to listen as well as roar, to protect as well as conquer. With each careful step, his heart grew lighter and his spirit clearer. At last, the dragon reached the summit where the ancient altar stood. It was a stone carved with dragons and phoenixes, symbols of heaven and earth entwined in eternal dance. The altar was bathed in golden light as the clouds parted to reveal the sun shining brightly. Here the dragon faced his final challenge, the trial of the heart. The spirits of the mountain appeared as glowing orbs of light, circling him gently. They tested not his strength or skill, but the purity of his soul. They showed him visions of the world below, the rivers that flowed with life, the forests full of creatures, and the people who looked to the dragon as a guardian. The spirits asked if he would use his power to serve and protect, or to rule with fear and selfishness. The dragon looked deep within himself and felt a great warmth. He saw that true power came from kindness and responsibility, from the courage to protect others even when it was difficult. His heart opened like a blooming lotus, and the spirits smiled in approval. The altar glowed, and a radiant light enveloped the dragon. His scales shone brighter than ever, and his wings spread wide, carrying the energy of the mountain and sky. He had passed the trial of the misty mountains. With the trial complete, the celestial dragon soared from the summit, his roar echoing across the valleys. The storm clouds broke apart, and sunlight bathed the land in golden warmth. The rivers sparkled with renewed life, the forests whispered with joy, and the people below looked up in awe and gratitude. The dragon had become a true guardian of the realm, a bridge between heaven and earth, a symbol of hope and strength. From that day forward, the dragon's presence was felt in every breeze and every drop of rain. His story was told by villagers and scholars, inspiring generations to find courage and balance in their own lives. The misty mountains remained a sacred place, a reminder that even the mightiest must face trials to grow and shine. The dragon's trial was not just a test of power, but a journey of the soul, a journey that anyone could learn from if they dared to rise above fear and doubt, to embrace their true self, and to protect the world with a heart full of light. The sacred river was the lifeblood of the ancient kingdom, nestled between towering mountains and vast forests. For centuries, its crystal-clear waters flowed calmly, nurturing the land and all its creatures. But beneath its serene surface lay a power older than time itself, a power fiercely guarded by the celestial dragon, the ancient protector of the river. The dragon was said to be born from the union of the heavens and the earth, its scales shimmering like polished jade and eyes glowing with the wisdom of countless ages. The people revered the dragon as a divine guardian, praying for rain in times of drought and peace in times of strife. But peace is often fragile, and the harmony that the sacred river sustained was about to be shattered. Far beyond the mountains, in a darkened valley where shadows reigned, a powerful warlord had risen. Hungry for power and control, the warlord coveted the sacred river's waters, believing that controlling it would grant him dominion over all the lands that thrived along its banks. His armies were vast and ruthless, leaving destruction in their wake. He believed the celestial dragon was but a myth, a story to frighten children and inspire awe in the weak-hearted. To him, the river was a resource to be seized and exploited. One fateful dawn, as mist curled over the river's surface like ghostly fingers, the warlord's forces descended upon the sacred river valley. The air grew thick with tension, the peaceful song of birds drowned by the thunder of marching feet and the clash of armor. The villagers fled to the hills, clutching what little they could carry, eyes wide with fear and hope intertwined. They had heard the legends. The dragon would come to their aid in their darkest hour. But as the enemy drew closer, doubt gnawed at their hearts. Deep within the river's sacred cave, hidden by waterfalls and ancient enchantments, the celestial dragon stirred. The disturbance echoed through the dragon's vast senses, a ripple of corruption and greed invading the pure waters it guarded. With a mighty roar that shook the mountains, the dragon rose, its great wings unfurling like the sails of an ancient ship. The sky darkened as the dragon ascended, scales shimmering in the morning light, casting dancing reflections upon the trembling waters below. The first clash came swiftly. The warlord soldiers, armed with steel and fire, marched toward the river's source, intending to seize control. But the dragon was no mere beast. It soared above them, a tempest incarnate. With a flick of its massive tail, it sent shockwaves that toppled trees and shattered weapons. From its maw came flames of blue and gold, burning away the armor of those foolish enough to stand in its path. The ground itself seemed to tremble with the force of the dragon's wrath. Despite the dragon's fury, the warlord's armies pressed forward, their numbers overwhelming. The soldiers adapted, bringing shields coated with river stones to resist the flames and devising traps to ensnare the great beast. The battle stretched over days, the river turning red with spilled blood and churning with the turmoil of destruction. The air was heavy with the scent of smoke and the cries of the fallen. Amid the chaos, the dragon's strength began to wane. The warlord, seeing an opportunity, unleashed his secret weapon, a sorcerer versed in dark magic who sought to bind the dragon with enchanted chains forged from the shadows themselves. The sorcerer chanted ancient spells, weaving tendrils of darkness that snaked through the air, wrapping around the dragon's legs and wings. The mighty creature roared in pain and fury, but was held fast, its freedom curtailed. With the dragon trapped, the warlord's forces surged forward, eager to claim the river's source. But the battle was far from over. The sacred river was more than just water. It was a living force connected to the land and sky, and it would not surrender its guardian without a fight. From the river's depths, spirits of water and wind awakened, summoned by the dragon's desperate call. They swirled around the battlefield, creating storms that drenched the warlord's soldiers and winds that tore their banners from their poles. In the heart of the conflict, a young village guardian, inspired by the dragon's courage, rose to action. Armed not with swords, but with knowledge passed down through generations, the guardian sought to break the sorcerer's spell. Underneath the crashing storm and clashing armies, the guardian approached the sorcerer's dark altar. With steady hands, ancient runes were traced in the dirt, breaking the chains one by one. The sorcerer's power faltered, and with a final cry, the shadow chains dissolved into mist. Freed from bondage, the celestial dragon let out a thunderous roar that echoed through the valleys. It rose higher into the storm-laden sky, gathering the elements to its will. Lightning crackled from its claws, thunder rolled from its roar, and flames danced along its scales like living fire. The dragon unleashed a final, magnificent surge of power that scattered the warlord's forces like leaves before the wind. The warlord fled, his ambitions drowned by the overwhelming force of nature and the will of the dragon. The sacred river flowed pure once more, its waters sparkling under the returning sun. The villagers emerged from hiding, their hearts lifted by the sight of the dragon soaring peacefully above. The young guardian was celebrated, their bravery forever entwined with the legend of the celestial dragon. In the days that followed, the dragon returned to its hidden sanctuary beneath the waterfalls, its duty fulfilled but never ending. The river continued to sustain life, a testament to the battle fought and won. The story of the battle for the sacred river became a timeless tale, reminding all who heard it that true power lies not in conquest, but in harmony with the forces that shape the world. The dragon's legacy lived on, a symbol of protection, courage, and the enduring spirit of the land. Long ago, when the world was young and the skies and earth were still forming their ancient shapes, the celestial dragon ruled the heavens with wisdom and power. This dragon was no ordinary beast. It was a magnificent creature with shimmering scales that reflected every color of the rainbow, eyes that held the light of stars, and a spirit so vast it could see the future itself. The celestial dragon was the guardian of balance between the mortal realm and the divine, watching over rivers, mountains, and all living things with great care. For centuries, the dragon lived high above in the clouds, away from the eyes of humans who only knew legends and whispered tales of its greatness. Yet, even from the heavens, the dragon could feel the pulse of the mortal world. It saw the people struggling to survive through harsh winters and dry summers, fighting for food and shelter. The dragon's heart stirred with compassion, for it knew that the mortal realm, though fragile, was full of hope and dreams. It wished to help, to share its blessings, but the laws of the divine forbade interference in human affairs. One day, after a great storm had passed and the sun broke through the clouds, the dragon descended quietly to a hidden valley where the mortal world felt closest to the heavens. This valley was lush and fertile, home to wise elders and humble farmers who lived in harmony with nature. The dragon chose this place because it was a bridge between worlds where the earth was rich and the skies clear. Here, the dragon decided to bestow a gift that would change the fate of mortals forever. From its vast treasure hoard, the dragon pulled forth a single scale, glowing with a soft golden light. This scale was no ordinary part of the dragon's body. It was a piece of the celestial power that kept the universe in balance. The dragon placed the scale in the heart of the valley, burying it beneath the soil where it could nourish the earth. As the scale settled into the ground, the valley began to shimmer with renewed energy. Crops grew taller and stronger than ever before, rivers flowed clear and full, and the animals thrived. Word of this miraculous change spread quickly among the people. The elders, wise and thoughtful, gathered to understand the blessing that had come to their home. They sensed that this gift was from the heavens, a sign of the dragon's favor. To honor the dragon's generosity, the people vowed to protect the valley and live in a way that respected the balance between nature and humanity. But not all mortals saw the dragon's gift as a blessing. Far away, in a dark and shadowy kingdom ruled by greed and power, a cruel warlord heard tales of the valley's prosperity. Driven by jealousy and hunger, he gathered his armies and marched toward the valley, intent on seizing the dragon's gift for himself. He believed that, by possessing the celestial scale, he would become unstoppable, ruling all the lands with iron fist and fear. When the warlord's army reached the valley, the earth itself seemed to rise against them. The rivers swelled and turned into floods, trees twisted their branches like fierce arms, and the animals fought fiercely to defend their home. The people of the valley stood united, guided by the dragon's blessing and their deep connection to the land. Though the warlord's forces were many, they could not overcome the power of nature awakened by the celestial scale. In the midst of the battle, the celestial dragon appeared once more, descending from the clouds with a roar that shook the very mountains. Its presence filled the sky with lightning and thunder, and the warlord's armies were thrown into chaos. The dragon's fiery breath swept across the battlefield, but it did not strike to kill. Instead, it served as a warning. The dragon made clear that the gift was not a tool for conquest, but a sacred trust to protect life and balance. In the earliest days of the world, before time had fully settled, and the land was young and wild, the heavens and earth were one vast expanse of swirling energy and raw creation. From this endless fusion of elements, the cosmic forces of yin and yang danced together in balance and conflict, weaving the fabric of existence. Amid this profound chaos, nature began to stir with life. Mountains rose, rivers flowed, and forests stretched their limbs toward the sun. It was during this age of awakening that the story of the phoenix, the majestic fiery bird of myth and legend, began to take shape. The phoenix did not simply appear. It was born from the very essence of fire and spirit, a symbol of transformation and eternal renewal. In the heart of a mystical forest untouched by mortal hands, a sacred flame burned endlessly. This flame was no ordinary fire. It was a divine spark, the pure breath of the heavens. It flickered with colors unseen by the human eye, gold, crimson, and a brilliant, almost blinding white. It was said that this flame had existed since the dawn of time, representing the sun's life-giving power and the endless cycle of destruction and rebirth that governed the universe. One day, as the flame blazed with renewed intensity, it began to take shape, gathering energy from the surrounding elements: air, earth, water, and of course, fire itself. The smoke curled and twisted, rising high into the sky as if trying to touch the stars. From this smoke emerged the first glimmer of a great wing, shimmering with the heat of the flame and glowing with vibrant feathers of gold and red. The air grew warm, and the forest around the sacred fire seemed to hold its breath in awe. The phoenix was born, a magnificent creature embodying the power of fire and the spirit of life. Its body was radiant, covered in feathers that shone like molten gold and flickered like flames dancing in the wind. Its eyes sparkled with wisdom and kindness, reflecting the knowledge of the heavens. The wings stretched wide, carrying the promise of flight and freedom, and its long, graceful tail feathers trailed behind it like ribbons of fire. As the phoenix took its first flight, the world below seemed to respond to its presence. Flowers bloomed with colors more vibrant than ever before, rivers sparkled like liquid silver, and the air was filled with a sense of hope and renewal. The bird soared above the mountains and across the sky, its feathers casting sparks of light that fell gently to the earth like golden rain. Wherever the phoenix flew, it left behind a trail of warmth and light, awakening the dormant life and encouraging growth. The birth of the phoenix was more than just the arrival of a beautiful creature. It was a symbol of the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. It represented the idea that from destruction comes new beginnings, and from hardship arises strength. The phoenix became a guardian of the natural world, watching over the balance of the seasons and the changing of the times. Its presence reminded all living beings that even when darkness falls and the cold of winter settles in, the fire of life still burns within, waiting to rise again. Legends tell of the phoenix's nest, made from the rarest and most precious materials found in the world: golden branches, fragrant jasmine flowers, and stones that glowed with an inner light. This nest was not merely a home, it was a sacred place where the phoenix would rest and prepare for its ultimate transformation. Every 1,000 years, the phoenix would build this nest high upon a mountain peak, far from the reach of humans. And there, it would ignite a great fire with its own flames. This fire was unlike any other. It burned with an intensity that could melt stone and boil rivers, yet it was also pure and cleansing. As the flames consumed the phoenix's body, it did not perish, but transformed. From the ashes rose a new phoenix, younger and more radiant than before, ready to begin a new cycle of life and guardianship. This process symbolized renewal and hope, teaching that even in the face of destruction and loss, there is the promise of a fresh start and endless possibilities. The phoenix's birth also holds a special place in the heavens. It is said to be a messenger between the mortal world and the divine, a bridge that connects Earth with the stars. The phoenix carries prayers and wishes from humans to the gods and returns with blessings of prosperity and peace. Its fiery feathers are believed to bring good fortune, and many ancient rulers sought to wear the image of the phoenix as a symbol of their own divine right to govern and protect their people. Throughout Chinese history, the phoenix became a powerful symbol of feminine grace and virtue, often paired with the dragon, which represented masculine power and strength. Together, the dragon and phoenix symbolized harmony and balance, the yin and yang of the universe. The phoenix, with its beauty and gentleness, reminded people of the importance of kindness, patience, and renewal. It was seen as a protector of the family and a bringer of peace to the home. Artists and poets have long been inspired by the phoenix's story, capturing its fiery elegance in paintings, sculptures, and poems. Its image is often seen in traditional architecture, embroidery, and jewelry, a constant reminder of the power of transformation and the endless cycles of nature. The phoenix's tale teaches that life is not static, but a continuous journey of change, growth, and rebirth. In many versions of the myth, the phoenix's fiery birth is also linked to the coming of spring and the end of winter. Its flames melt the ice and snow, allowing new life to flourish and the earth to awaken once again. This connection to the changing seasons highlights the phoenix's role as a symbol of hope and renewal, a reminder that no matter how dark or cold times may seem, the light will always return. The story of the phoenix's birth also holds deeper spiritual meanings. Fire is a sacred element in many cultures, representing purification, transformation, and divine energy. The phoenix's flames cleanse away the old, making way for the new. This cycle mirrors the human experience. Through trials and hardships, people grow stronger and wiser, just as the phoenix rises anew from its ashes. The myth encourages resilience and faith in the future, inspiring individuals to embrace change and find beauty in every ending and beginning. In the end, the birth of the fiery phoenix is not just a story of a mythical bird. It is a timeless lesson about life itself. It teaches that from the smallest spark can grow the greatest flame, that from destruction comes creation, and that within each ending lies the seed of a new beginning. The phoenix reminds us to look beyond the ashes of the past and to soar with courage and grace into the endless sky of possibilities. The world continues to tell the tale of the phoenix, passing it from generation to generation, keeping alive the memory of that first sacred flame and the magnificent bird born from it. It is a story that transcends time and place, touching hearts with its message of hope, transformation, and eternal life. Whenever the sun rises and casts its golden light across the earth, one can imagine the fiery wings of the phoenix spreading wide, carrying the promise of new dawns and the endless dance of fire and spirit. Defeated and humbled, the warlord fled, leaving behind his dreams of power. The people of the valley, though weary, rejoiced in their victory and renewed their promise to live in harmony with the dragon's gift. Over time, the valley became a place of peace and learning where mortals and nature thrived side by side. Travelers came from far and wide to witness the miracle, and the story of the dragon's gift spread throughout the lands. Generations passed, and the celestial scale continued to nourish the valley, ensuring that the cycle of life remained strong. The dragon watched from the skies, proud of the mortals who had honored its gift. The balance between heaven and earth was preserved, and the mortal realm flourished like never before. The dragon's gift was more than a scale buried in the soil. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness and respect for nature could bring great change. The story lived on in the hearts of the people, inspiring them to protect their world and cherish the blessings of the heavens. And so, in the dance between the celestial and the mortal, the dragon's gift remained a beacon, a promise that the power of the divine would always be with those who sought harmony and peace. The phoenix, known as Feng Huang in Chinese mythology, is a majestic and sacred bird whose story has inspired awe and reverence for thousands of years. After its birth from the purest flames, the phoenix spreads its grand wings and prepares for a journey unlike any other. This journey is not merely one of flight, but a sacred pilgrimage that takes the phoenix across the vast and mysterious realms of existence, carrying with it the powers of renewal, grace, and cosmic balance. The phoenix's wings shimmer with iridescent colors, glowing with the bright hues of red, gold, purple, and green. Each feather seems to hold a story of its own, woven from the energy of the heavens and earth. As it lifts off from the sacred fire where it was born, the air around it ripples with heat and light, creating a vision that few mortals ever witness. Its flight marks the beginning of a sacred mission, to visit the realms of the gods, humans, and spirits, to maintain harmony and bless the world with peace and prosperity. The first realm the phoenix enters is the celestial palace, the home of the Jade Emperor, ruler of the heavens. Here, the phoenix is not just a magnificent creature, but a symbol of divine virtue and royal power. The celestial realm is filled with swirling clouds, glistening towers, and gardens bursting with heavenly flowers. The air smells of jasmine and sandalwood, and the gentle hum of celestial music fills the space. The phoenix's arrival brings an aura of peace and respect, for it is believed that its presence signals a time of great blessing and fortune. As the phoenix glides through the skies of the celestial realm, its feathers scatter tiny sparks of fire that dance like stars. These sparks fall gently to the earth below, nurturing the seeds of harmony and wisdom among gods and immortals. The Jade Emperor watches with favor, knowing that the phoenix's sacred flight is a sign of balance being restored in the universe. The bird's graceful movement is a reminder that all things are connected, from the smallest insect to the grandest mountain, from the mortal realm to the divine. After spending time in the celestial palace, the phoenix begins its descent to the mortal world. This realm is full of life, beauty, and chaos, where humans live their lives filled with hope, struggle, joy, and sorrow. The phoenix's arrival is always marked by a brilliant display of light in the sky, a fiery comet that streaks across the horizon, capturing the attention of those who witness it. Farmers, scholars, and villagers alike tell tales of the sacred bird, saying that it blesses the land where it flies, bringing abundant harvests and protection against evil. As it soars above the mountains, rivers, and fields, the phoenix's feathers seem to glow with an inner fire that warms the hearts of those below. Crops grow taller and healthier, and the air feels fresher, as if the very spirit of life is renewed. People feel inspired to be kind and just, to seek harmony with nature and with one another. The phoenix's flight encourages the people to live in balance, reminding them that respect for the natural world is the key to prosperity. But the mortal realm is not without its shadows. The phoenix's journey leads it into dark forests where spirits dwell, some benign, some mischievous, and some dangerous. These spirits are the keepers of the unseen world, guardians of the mysteries beyond human understanding. The phoenix's sacred fire serves as a beacon, offering light to those lost in darkness and courage to those facing fear. Its song, a melody of hope and renewal, echoes through the trees, calming restless souls and bringing peace to troubled hearts. The phoenix's flight over the spirit realm is the most delicate part of its journey. Here, it must navigate between worlds, bridging the gap between the living and the unseen. The spirits recognize the phoenix as a holy creature, a messenger of balance and transformation. Some spirits bow in respect, while others follow the bird's path, seeking guidance and renewal. The phoenix's fire purifies, burns away darkness, and restores the natural order where chaos has taken root. One of the most important aspects of the phoenix's flight is the cycle of transformation. As the bird flies, it carries the power to turn death into life, sorrow into joy, and despair into hope. This power is symbolized by the phoenix's legendary rebirth from its own ashes, a cycle that teaches all beings about the endless possibilities of renewal. Wherever the phoenix passes, old wounds begin to heal, broken dreams take flight, and lost hopes find new wings. The sacred flight also brings the gift of time itself. The phoenix's presence is said to mark the turning of seasons and the flow of life. Ancient scholars studied the movements of the phoenix in the skies to understand the cycles of the heavens, using its flight to predict changes in weather, fortune, and the tides of fate. The bird's connection to the sun and fire links it deeply to the rhythm of day and night, light and shadow, birth and death. As the phoenix continues its journey, it crosses over vast landscapes, from snow-capped mountains to lush valleys, from tranquil lakes to roaring waterfalls. Each place it visits is touched by its sacred presence. Trees grow taller, flowers bloom brighter, and animals move with renewed energy. The phoenix is a living symbol of vitality and eternal life, reminding all creatures that change is natural and necessary. The journey is long and filled with challenges. Storms gather and winds roar as the phoenix flies through dark skies. Lightning flashes and thunder shakes the earth, but the phoenix remains steady, its feathers glowing brighter with every challenge. The storms are not obstacles, but part of the natural cycle, and the phoenix's flight honors even the fiercest elements, balancing destruction with creation. Throughout the flight, the phoenix's fire never burns harmfully, but instead heals and strengthens. Its flames are purifying, cleansing the air and land of toxins and evil influences. Villages plagued by disease find relief when the phoenix passes overhead, and battles often come to a peaceful end, as if the bird's presence inspires warriors to lay down their arms and seek peace. The phoenix's sacred flight is also a journey of wisdom. Along the way, the bird gathers the stories of the world, tales of heroes and villains, of love and loss, of triumph and tragedy. This knowledge is carried back to the celestial realm, enriching the heavens with the experience of mortal life. The phoenix is both observer and participant, connecting the different realms through its flight and bridging the gap between the divine and the earthly. Finally, after traveling the vast expanses of the three realms, celestial, mortal, and spirit, the phoenix returns to its sacred fire. It lands gently, its wings folding gracefully, and begins the great act of renewal. The bird bursts into flames, burning away the old feathers and self, only to rise reborn from the glowing ashes. This rebirth is a sacred ritual, a promise that life continues despite trials and endings. The phoenix's rebirth marks the completion of its sacred flight and the beginning of a new cycle. With renewed strength and wisdom, the phoenix prepares once again to soar across the realms, bringing hope, harmony, and transformation wherever it flies. Its story is not just a myth, but a living lesson, that from every ending comes a new beginning, and from every hardship there is the power to rise again, stronger and brighter than before. The sacred flight of the phoenix remains an eternal symbol in Chinese culture, a reminder of the beauty of change, the power of renewal, and the importance of living in harmony with the world around us. It inspires artists, poets, and dreamers, inviting all to look beyond the ordinary and see the magic that exists in every corner of life. Through its journey across the realms, the phoenix teaches that we all have the power to rise, to heal, and to bring light even in the darkest times. In the heart of an ancient land where the skies stretched wide and the mountains stood tall like silent guardians, the phoenix faced the greatest trial of its existence, the trial of flames. This trial was not merely a test of strength or courage, but a sacred ritual of death and rebirth that would determine the phoenix's place among the celestial beings forever. As the cycle of life and death wove endlessly through the cosmos. The phoenix, known for its shimmering feathers of gold and crimson, approached the time when it must surrender to the consuming fire, only to rise anew with greater power and wisdom. The story began when the phoenix, majestic and revered, felt the ancient call deep within its heart, a call as old as time itself, echoing the promise of renewal and eternal transformation. It was said that once every 500 years, the phoenix's body would grow weary, its flames dimming, and it would seek the sacred pyre atop the highest mountain, where the trial of flames would unfold. As the phoenix soared through the sky, its wings beating like thunder, the creatures of the earth watched in awe, sensing the approach of something both terrifying and beautiful. The wind whispered tales of the fire that would soon blaze across the mountain top, a fire not meant to destroy, but to cleanse and recreate. Upon reaching the summit, the phoenix found the pyre already blazing, its flames dancing with colors unseen by mortal eyes, blues, purples, and shimmering whites that sang of purity and cosmic power. The air crackled with heat and magic, a sacred energy that transformed the very atmosphere around it. The phoenix landed gracefully, its feathers glowing brighter as it prepared to enter the trial that would end its old life and birth a new one. The fire welcomed the phoenix like an old friend, and as it stepped into the heart of the blaze, its form became engulfed in light and heat, dissolving into ash and smoke. This moment was not one of pain, but of surrender, a letting go of the past and all its burdens. The world seemed to hold its breath as the phoenix's flames were extinguished, leaving only a pile of glowing embers. Yet within those embers lay the seed of new life, a promise that the phoenix's story was far from over. Time passed differently around the pyre, stretching and folding in ways that no human could measure. The ash began to stir, and from it the first signs of rebirth emerged. A small flicker of flame sparked in the ashes, fragile yet full of potential. Slowly the shape of the phoenix took form again, its feathers brighter, more radiant than before, shining with the wisdom of countless lifetimes. This rebirth was not just physical, but spiritual. The phoenix now carried the knowledge of the fire, the wisdom gained through its trial, and a deeper understanding of the eternal cycle of existence. It was as if the flames had burned away not just its old body, but also the doubts, fears, and mistakes of its past lives, leaving behind a being purified and perfected. As the new phoenix spread its wings, the sky around it brightened, the dawn breaking with a brilliance that had not been seen for centuries. The creatures below cheered silently with their eyes, for they knew that the world had been gifted a new guardian, one that embodied hope, renewal, and the power of transformation. The trial of flames was more than a myth or a story told by the elders. It was a profound truth about change, sacrifice, and the endless possibility of new beginnings. In its reborn form, the phoenix was a symbol not only of immortality, but of courage, the courage to face destruction and emerge stronger, wiser, and more beautiful than before. Its feathers shimmered with every color of the fire, and its cry echoed across the lands, calling to those who needed hope, reminding all that even in the darkest moments, there was the promise of light. The rebirth also carried a sacred duty. The phoenix was now charged with guarding the balance between life and death, fire and water, creation and destruction. It was to watch over the world, guiding lost souls, bringing warmth to the cold, and inspiring those who had lost their way to rise again from their own trials. Throughout the centuries, the tale of the trial of flames inspired countless generations. It became a story passed from parent to child, a legend carved into temple walls and sung by wandering poets. Artists painted the phoenix rising from the ashes, capturing the moment of rebirth with brushstrokes full of hope and reverence. Scholars studied the myth, interpreting its deeper meanings about the nature of existence and the power of transformation. The phoenix's trial of flames was a metaphor for the cycles that governed not just the universe, but the lives of every being. It showed that death was not an end, but a necessary step for renewal. It taught that suffering and loss, though painful, were part of a larger journey toward growth and enlightenment. In many ways, the phoenix's story was a mirror to the human condition, our struggles, failures, and triumphs. As the reborn phoenix soared once more through the heavens, its radiant form casting golden light upon the earth, it carried within it the collective hopes of all who looked to the skies for a sign of new beginnings. Its flames would burn bright for another 500 years, a beacon of resilience and transformation for all living beings. The trial of flames was a sacred reminder that no matter how dark or difficult the journey, the power to rise again was always within reach, waiting to be ignited by the fire of courage and hope. After enduring the fierce trial of flames and rising anew from her own ashes, the phoenix soared higher than ever before, her majestic wings spreading wide across the vast skies. Her radiant feathers shimmered with the colors of dawn, gold, crimson, and fiery orange, casting a warm glow over the land below. Wherever she flew, the people watched in awe, knowing that the ancient creature was no ordinary bird. She was a symbol of renewal, hope, and divine blessing, and her presence heralded a new era of peace and prosperity for the realms she visited. The world had suffered long under the shadows of war, famine, and despair. Kingdoms had fallen, fields lay barren, and hearts were heavy with grief. The gods themselves seemed distant, silent, as the land cried out for salvation. It was in these desperate times that the phoenix's blessing became more than legend. It became the promise of a future reborn. As she glided over mountains and rivers, her fiery aura touched the earth, and life began to awaken in places long thought lost. In the valleys, the soil, once cracked and dry, softened beneath the gentle heat of her wings. Seeds that had lain dormant for seasons sprouted, bursting forth with vibrant greens and blooms of every hue. Trees, gnarled and broken by harsh winds, straightened their limbs and grew strong again, their leaves whispering ancient songs of revival. The rivers, once thin trickles, swelled with clear, cool water, bringing nourishment to every living thing along their banks. The air itself seemed infused with a fresh energy, light and pure, as if the phoenix's spirit had breathed new life into the very atmosphere. The people who lived under her watchful flight felt the change deep within their souls. Farmers who had given up hope began planting again, their hands eager to coax crops from the fertile earth. Villages that had been abandoned came alive once more, filled with the sounds of laughter, song, and the bustling of daily life. The phoenix was not just a symbol. She was a catalyst, a divine force turning the tide from ruin to rebirth. Among those touched by her blessing were the rulers of the great kingdoms, once locked in endless conflict over land and power. Witnessing the phoenix's power to heal the land and inspire the people, they found their hardened hearts softened. War councils gave way to peace talks, swords were laid down, and treaties were signed beneath the glow of the phoenix's light. Her presence demanded harmony, not violence, reminding all that the strength of a kingdom lay not in conquest, but in unity. The phoenix's blessing was also a gift to the artists, the storytellers, and the dreamers. Inspired by her fiery grace, painters captured her image on scrolls and silk, their brushstrokes alive with passion and reverence. Poets composed verses that sang of her journey through flame and rebirth, their words spreading like wildfire through the streets and markets. Children grew up hearing tales of the phoenix's bravery and kindness, dreaming of a world where they too could rise from hardship and shine. In the sacred groves and temples, priests and priestesses celebrated the phoenix with ceremonies that honored her eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. They lit incense and candles, their prayers carrying on the wind like delicate feathers. The people came to these places not just to worship but to seek guidance and strength, believing that the phoenix's blessing was a light in the darkest times. Legends tell that the phoenix's flame did more than bring life to the land, it purified it. Where her fire touched, it burned away corruption and decay, cleansing the spirit of the earth and its inhabitants. This cleansing was not destructive, but gentle and renewing. like the warmth of the sun melting away the cold of winter. The people felt this purity in their hearts, casting aside old grudges and fears, opening themselves to forgiveness and hope. As seasons passed, the influence of the phoenix grew stronger. The once fragile peace between kingdoms blossomed into alliances based on trust and respect. Trade flourished along the Silk Roads and mountain passes, carrying goods and ideas that enriched cultures and minds alike. Knowledge, once hoarded by few, spread freely, and with it came innovations in agriculture, medicine, and art. The world was becoming a place where prosperity was shared and peace was the foundation on which life was built. In remote villages, elders spoke of miraculous healings that occurred after the phoenix's visit. Children who had been ill found strength, crops once cursed by blight thrived, and even the most hardened warriors found peace in their hearts. The phoenix's blessing was both tangible and mystical, a force that worked through nature, human spirit, and divine will all at once. Yet the phoenix's role was not to remain forever in one place. As the sun rose and set, she continued her flight, a tireless guardian and herald of renewal. Wherever the darkness threatened to return, she appeared, her flames rekindling hope and strength. Her cycle of rebirth served as a powerful reminder that no matter how deep the despair or how harsh the trial, life would always find a way to rise again. Her story became woven into the fabric of the people's lives, a sacred thread linking generations. Festivals were held in her honor, marked by lanterns that glowed like her fiery feathers, dances that mimicked her graceful flight, and songs that echoed her eternal spirit. The phoenix became a guardian, not just of the land, but of the hearts of all who believed in the power of renewal. In time, the phoenix's blessing transformed not only the world, but the way people saw themselves. They learned that, like the phoenix, they could face their hardships, endure their trials, and emerge stronger, wiser, and more radiant. The bird was no longer just a myth or a symbol, but a living lesson etched into the soul of the culture. Though her flames were fierce and her power immense, the phoenix's greatest gift was the gentle fire she ignited in every heart, the courage to change, the strength to forgive, and the wisdom to hope. Through her, the cycle of life and rebirth was honored not just in legend, but in the very breath of the earth and the spirit of the people. The phoenix's blessing continues to be a guiding light in Chinese mythology and culture. Even now, when lanterns are lit and red banners wave in the breeze, it is her fiery spirit that is celebrated, a timeless emblem of peace, prosperity, and the eternal dance of life rising anew. In the vast ancient lands of China, long before cities rose and kingdoms formed, the world was filled with wonder and magic. The mountains reached high into the sky, cloaked in clouds and mystery, while the rivers ran clear and deep, carrying stories from the past into the future. In this sacred and untouched realm, the forces of nature lived in perfect balance, watched over by spirits and mythical creatures born from the earth's heart. Among these creatures, one stood apart, not for its fearsome power, but for its gentle spirit and sacred purpose. This creature was the Qilin, a being of legend whose arrival was said to signal great change and blessings for the world. Its form was unlike any other, a beautiful mix of many animals. The body of a deer, covered with shimmering scales like a dragon's, the tail of an ox, the hooves of a horse, and a mane that flowed like fire. Its eyes shone with wisdom and kindness, able to see the truth hidden in the hearts of all living things. Wherever the Qilin walked, flowers bloomed in its footsteps, and the land itself seemed to breathe easier. The story of the Qilin's birth began in a time when the earth was still young and the heavens were watching closely. In a remote valley guarded by towering mountains, there was a hidden spring known as the Crystal Pool. This pool was said to hold the purest water in all the world, blessed by the spirits of heaven and earth. It was from this sacred pool that the Qilin would be born, a creature created by the combined wishes of nature's forces for a protector who could bring balance and harmony. On a night when the moon was full and the stars shimmered brighter than ever, the crystal pool began to glow with an ethereal light. The winds hushed, and even the creatures of the forest paused in awe. Deep beneath the water's surface, something began to stir. Slowly, a gentle ripple spread outwards, and from the depths emerged a form glowing softly with golden light. This was the beginning of the Qilin's life, a being not born like ordinary animals, but formed by the very essence of the earth spirit. As the Qilin rose from the water, its scales reflected the moonlight like 1,000 tiny mirrors, casting dazzling patterns across the rocks and trees. Its eyes opened for the first time, filled with the wisdom of ages and a deep compassion for all living things. The creature took its first steps onto the land, and where its hooves touched, flowers burst into bloom. Lotuses, peonies, and chrysanthemums, each representing purity, nobility, and longevity. The forest itself seemed to welcome the Qilin with open arms. The trees bowed gently in the breeze, and the birds sang melodies that echoed through the night. Even the wind carried a soft, warm whisper, as if nature was speaking its blessings. This moment marked the arrival of a new guardian, one who would walk between worlds, carrying the hopes of all creatures and the balance of life itself. Legends say that the Qilin was born from the union of the Dragon King's power and the gentle spirit of the Deer Goddess, combining strength and kindness in perfect harmony. The Dragon King, ruler of rivers and seas, bestowed upon the Qilin the power to control water and weather, while the Deer Goddess gave it the gift of healing and the ability to bring peace. Together, these powers made the Qilin a symbol of hope and renewal. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the Qilin stood at the edge of the valley, looking out over the world it was meant to protect. Its heart beat with the energy of the earth, filled with a deep understanding of the delicate balance between life and death, growth and decay. It knew its path would not be easy, for the world was full of darkness and challenges that threatened to upset this balance. But the Qilin was patient and wise, knowing that true strength came from kindness and justice. It vowed to use its gifts to protect the innocent and punish those who sought to bring harm. Its presence was said to calm storms, heal the sick, and bring peace to troubled lands. People who caught a glimpse of the Qilin were said to be blessed with good fortune, and their lives would be forever changed. In the days that followed its birth, the Qilin began to explore the valley and the lands beyond. Wherever it went, animals gathered around, sensing the purity of its spirit. The rivers flowed clearer, the forests grew greener, and the skies opened to reveal the sun's warm embrace. Even the seasons seemed to dance to the rhythm of the Qilin's steps, bringing harmony where chaos once ruled. But not all creatures in the world welcomed the Qilin's arrival. Deep in the shadows lurked dark forces that thrived on fear and discord. These beings, jealous of the Qilin's light and power, began to plot ways to challenge the sacred guardian. They sought to spread chaos, hoping to upset the balance and claim the world for themselves. The Qilin, however, was not unaware of these threats. With each day it grew stronger, learning to harness its powers and deepen its connection to the earth and sky. Its scales shimmered brighter, its senses sharpened, and its heart remained steady. The guardian knew that its journey was just beginning, and that great trials awaited. Stories of the Qilin's birth spread far and wide, carried by the winds and whispered by the trees. People from distant villages traveled to the valley to see the miraculous creature, hoping to witness the blessings it could bring. The Qilin never sought attention or praise. Instead, it moved quietly, its presence a gentle reminder that goodness and balance could still prevail. Ancient scrolls would later tell of this moment as a turning point in history, when the earth breathed a sigh of relief and hope returned to a world on the brink of darkness. The birth of the sacred Qilin was more than the beginning of a creature's life. It was the dawn of a new era, a promise that even in the face of hardship, light and harmony would endure. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden rays over the valley. The Qilin's figure grew smaller in the distance, disappearing into the mist-covered forest. Its journey had begun, and the story of the sacred Qilin would unfold in ways that no one could yet imagine. The Qilin, a creature both gentle and mighty, stepped cautiously into the edge of the forbidden forest, its hooves barely making a sound on the soft earth. This forest was unlike any other place in the land. It was thick with ancient trees whose twisted branches reached like claws toward the sky, and shadows danced in ways that seemed almost alive. Legends whispered that no ordinary traveler could cross this forest without losing their way, for magic hung heavy in the air, and strange creatures prowled beneath the dense canopy. The Qilin's scales shimmered with a soft golden glow that seemed to push back the darkness around it, casting a protective light with every step. It was on a sacred mission to reach the heart of the forest, where an old spirit was said to guard a secret powerful enough to change the fate of the nearby villages. The trees grew taller and the path narrower, twisting sharply and sometimes disappearing altogether, forcing the Qilin to rely on its keen senses and ancient wisdom. From above, the wind whispered warnings, carrying voices of those who had tried to enter and never returned. Yet the Qilin moved forward, unafraid, for it knew that fear had no place in the face of duty. As it ventured deeper, the temperature dropped, and a thick mist curled around its legs like ghostly fingers. Strange sounds echoed, low growls, the snapping of twigs, and eerie calls from unseen beasts. The Qilin's horn, a spiraled beacon of purity, pulsed with light, protecting it from the forest's dark magic. Suddenly, it came upon a clearing bathed in silver moonlight, where the ground was carpeted with strange, glowing flowers. Here, the Qilin paused, sensing a shift in the air, a presence watching from the shadows. From behind a gnarled tree stepped a creature unlike any the Qilin had seen before. It was a shadow beast, its eyes gleaming red and fur as dark as the night itself, with claws sharp enough to tear through stone. The forest had sent this guardian to test the worthiness of any who dared pass. The Qilin stood tall, unyielding, and without fear. It did not attack, but instead radiated calm and strength. The shadow beast circled slowly, trying to intimidate, but the Qilin's glowing scales and shining horn kept the darkness at bay. After a tense moment, the shadow beast seemed to bow, acknowledging the Qilin's purity of heart and purpose. The forest had accepted the Qilin's presence. The path forward was revealed as the shadows lifted and the glowing flowers bloomed brighter, lighting the way to a mysterious ancient temple hidden deep within the trees. The temple was said to house the spirit who held the secret of balance between the human world and the magical realm. The Qilin's journey was far from over, but with each step taken through the forbidden forest, it grew stronger and more determined to fulfill its sacred duty to protect and bring peace to the land. The ancient village lay nestled at the edge of a vast forest, a place where the wildness of nature met the calmness of human life. For generations, the villagers had lived in harmony with the land, tending their crops and honoring the spirits of the forest. But as the years passed, a shadow began to stir beyond the trees, threatening their peaceful existence. Dark creatures, born of malice and hunger, crept ever closer, their presence felt in the chilling winds and the eerie silence that fell over the village at night. The villagers whispered of a looming disaster, fearing what they could not see but could deeply sense. Amidst this growing darkness, the legend of the Qilin, the sacred guardian, began to spread once more. It was said that the Qilin, a mystical creature with the body of a deer, scales like a dragon, and the fiery mane of a lion, was the protector of the innocent and the punisher of the wicked. Long ago, the Qilin had appeared in times of great peril to bring balance and peace. Its footsteps were soft, yet wherever it walked, the earth bloomed anew, and evil fled in terror. The village elders called upon the old ways, seeking signs and blessings to summon the Qilin. They left offerings at the forest's edge, jade ornaments, fragrant incense, and freshly harvested rice, gifts meant to honor the spirit world. Days passed, and hope flickered in the hearts of the people like a fragile flame. Then, one morning, as dawn's light painted the sky with gold and rose, the ground trembled gently beneath their feet. From the misty depths of the forest, the Qilin emerged, its eyes shining with wisdom and kindness, yet burning with fierce determination. The villagers fell silent, watching in awe as the guardian walked towards them, a living symbol of hope. But the Qilin's presence alone was not enough. The dark creatures had grown bold, their hunger insatiable, their shadows spreading like ink across the land. The guardian understood the trial ahead. The battle to protect the village and restore balance would not be won through strength alone, but through wisdom, courage, and sacrifice. The first challenge came swiftly. As night fell, the creatures attacked. They emerged from the forest in twisted forms, monsters with claws sharp as blades, eyes glowing red with hunger. The villagers gathered what weapons they could, trembling but resolute, while the Qilin stood at the village border, its scales glowing faintly like embers in the dark. With a powerful roar, the guardian charged, its hooves striking the ground with thunderous force. Each step sent ripples through the earth, disrupting the creature's advance. The battle raged fiercely. The Qilin moved with grace and precision, its fiery mane blazing trails through the shadows. It was both fierce and gentle, striking only to defend, never to destroy without reason. The creatures, though many, were no match for its divine power. Yet even as the guardian fought, the villagers understood this was more than a physical battle. The Qilin's true strength was in the light it carried within, a light that could cleanse darkness and heal wounds. As the dawn approached, the creatures retreated into the forest, defeated but not destroyed. The village was safe for now, but the trial was far from over. The Qilin lowered its head, touching the earth gently, and from where it stood, flowers bloomed even in the cold light of morning. The villagers gathered around, feeling a renewed sense of hope and strength, but the guardian's eyes held a solemn warning. The darkness would return, and the village's fate depended on more than just one protector. In the days that followed, the villagers worked tirelessly to prepare. The Qilin taught them the ancient ways of harmony with nature, the art of listening to the wind, reading the patterns of the stars, and understanding the language of the earth itself. Under the guardian's guidance, the people learned to live not as masters of the land, but as its humble partners. Their hearts grew strong, their spirits united. The trial continued as strange omens appeared, whispers in the wind, shadows in the forest, and the eerie silence of animals fleeing the darkness. The Qilin stood watch at the village's edge, a silent sentinel guarding the fragile peace. It was during this time that the guardian faced a deeper trial, a test of patience and faith. The dark forces sought to break the village not through battle, but through fear and doubt. They sent illusions and nightmares to cloud the minds of the people, tempting them to turn away from the Qilin and fall into despair. But the villagers remembered the guardian's teachings. They embraced the light within themselves, finding courage in their unity and strength in their faith. Together they faced the darkness, not as separate souls, but as one living force. The Qilin's presence was a beacon, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light could shine through if one believed. One night, as the full moon cast silver light across the land, the final challenge arrived. The dark creatures returned in greater numbers, led by a monstrous shadow that blotted out the stars. This being was the embodiment of fear itself, a creature born from the deepest despair and hatred. It moved with unnatural speed and power, its eyes burning like coal, its voice a haunting echo that chilled the soul. The Qilin stepped forward to confront this shadow, its body glowing with a brilliant light that cut through the night. The battle was fierce and long, shaking the very earth beneath their feet. The guardian's fiery mane clashed with the darkness, each strike a battle between hope and despair. The villagers watched with bated breath, feeling the weight of their fate resting on the Qilin's shoulders. As the fight reached its climax, the guardian summoned all its strength and called upon the ancient powers of the forest. With a mighty roar, the Qilin unleashed a wave of light that spread across the land, cleansing the shadows and restoring the balance of nature. The monstrous shadow howled and dissolved, its darkness banished by the Guardian's radiant power. Silence fell over the village once more. The Qilin, though weary, stood tall and proud. The trial was won, not by might alone, but by the unity of the Guardian and the villagers, by the belief in a future where peace could flourish. The forest seemed to breathe again, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and fresh rain. The villagers gathered around the Qilin, their hearts filled with gratitude and awe. Though the battle was over, the Guardian knew its duty was not yet done. It remained vigilant, a protector watching over the village and the forest, ready to face any new trial that might arise. The story of the Qilin's trial became a legend, passed down through generations as a reminder that true strength comes from harmony, courage, and the light within. The village thrived, forever blessed by the sacred Guardian who once walked among them, a symbol of hope in a world that would always need protecting. The village lay nestled between towering mountains and lush forests, a place where the wind whispered ancient secrets and the rivers sang songs of time. For generations, the villagers had lived simple, quiet lives, guided by the rhythms of nature and the lessons passed down by their ancestors. But their peaceful existence was fragile, threatened by the growing darkness that spread across the land. Crops withered under a cruel drought, wild beasts prowled dangerously close, and the shadow of fear crept into every home. It was in this moment of despair that the legend of the Qilin, the sacred creature of myth and virtue, began to take form once more, promising a chance for hope and renewal. The Qilin was unlike any being the villagers had ever seen. Its body gleamed with scales that shimmered in gold, silver, and emerald hues, catching the sunlight like a living jewel. Its antlers curved gently, twisting toward the sky as if to greet the heavens. Its eyes shone with wisdom beyond mortal years, calm yet piercing, as if it could see into the hearts of all who beheld it. The villagers had heard stories passed down through time, how the Qilin was a symbol of justice, kindness, and protection, appearing only when the world was in great need. To them, the sight of the Qilin was both awe-inspiring and humbling, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the light of goodness could prevail. When the Qilin arrived at the edge of the village, it did not rush or roar like the fierce beasts that once haunted the forests. Instead, it moved with the grace of flowing water, silent but powerful. The villagers watched in wonder as the creature's hooves barely touched the earth, and wherever it stepped, wildflowers bloomed and the parched soil softened. The air seemed to grow warmer, and the heavy clouds that had hung low and menacing began to part, letting beams of sunlight pierce through. For the first time in many months, hope flickered in the hearts of the people. The village elders gathered to observe the Qilin's presence, their faces etched with reverence. They knew that such a blessing was not merely a chance occurrence, but a call to action. The Qilin's blessing was a gift, but it came with responsibility. It was a reminder that peace and prosperity were fragile and must be guarded with wisdom and care. The elders urged the villagers to renew their respect for the land and to work together to heal what had been broken. They spoke of harmony between humans and nature, of kindness to all creatures, and of the courage to stand against darkness with light. The Qilin stayed in the village longer than anyone expected. Each day, it wandered through the fields, forests, and riversides, its presence restoring life and balance. The withered crops began to regain their strength, stretching tall toward the sky with fresh green leaves and ripe fruits. The animals that had once fled from the shadows returned, moving freely without fear. Even the rivers, which had grown thin and sluggish, swelled with clear, sparkling water that nourished the earth. The village, once shrouded in despair, now blossomed with vitality and joy. But the Qilin's blessing was not only in the restoration of nature. the villagers themselves began to change. Old grudges and quarrels that had long divided them melted away as they united under the creatures' silent guidance. Acts of kindness multiplied, from sharing food to helping one another rebuild damaged homes. Children laughed and played in the fields, their innocence a promise of a brighter future. The village became a place where the spirit of community flourished, bound together by respect, trust, and love. In the evenings, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, the Qilin could be seen standing atop a hill overlooking the village, its silhouette glowing softly in the fading light. It was a guardian watching over those it had chosen to protect, a symbol that peace was not just the absence of trouble, but the presence of harmony in all things. Though the villagers could not fully understand the depths of its power or the mysteries it held, they felt the warmth of its blessing settle in their hearts, a lasting gift that would guide them through future storms. Seasons changed, and the village thrived as never before. The once barren fields yielded bountiful harvests, the rivers teemed with fish, and the forests echoed with the songs of birds and the rustle of leaves. Travelers from distant lands came to witness the miracle and to learn from the villagers who shared stories of the Qilin's blessing and the lessons it had brought. The tale spread far and wide, inspiring others to seek harmony with the world around them, reminding all that goodness and courage could overcome even the darkest times. The Qilin eventually vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared, leaving behind no trace but the flourishing life it had restored. The villagers did not mourn its departure, for they understood that the creature's blessing was eternal, woven into the fabric of their lives and the land they called home. They had learned that true peace was not a gift to be held tightly, but a flame to be nurtured and passed on. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and hope, the village continued on, forever changed by the sacred creature's visit. This story of the Qilin's blessing is a timeless reminder that even in the face of hardship, kindness, courage, and respect for the natural world can bring renewal and peace. It teaches that the power to heal and protect lies not only in magical beings, but in the strength and spirit of a united community. The legend of the Qilin lives on, shining brightly as a beacon of hope for all who believe in the possibility of a new era. An era where peace is not just a dream, but a living, breathing reality. In a quiet valley surrounded by rolling hills and ancient forests, there was a small village untouched by time. The villagers lived simple lives, tending their fields and caring for their families. The village was peaceful, where the rhythms of nature guided every step. But beneath this calm surface, a secret shadow lurked, one whispered among the elders but rarely spoken aloud. The villagers often spoke of strange happenings near the edge of the forest. Some said they heard soft laughter carried by the wind. Others noticed fleeting figures disappearing just beyond sight. The elders warned the young to be careful after sunset, for the forest held mysteries not meant for human eyes. These whispers were about the Huli Jing, the fox spirits, creatures both beautiful and dangerous, known to cross between the worlds of humans and spirits. The Huli Jing were more than just legends. They were ancient beings, born from the earth's magic and the mysteries of the night. With their fiery eyes and flowing tails, they could appear as graceful women or cunning foxes. Their powers were vast. They could shapeshift, create illusions, and even steal the life energy of those who crossed their paths. Some were said to be benevolent, protecting travelers or punishing the wicked. Others were tricksters, leading people into traps or madness. One autumn evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, a soft glow appeared at the forest's edge. The villagers paused their work and watched, curiosity mixed with unease. A figure moved through the trees, a woman with hair like spun silver and eyes that shimmered like stars. Her presence was both captivating and unsettling. She walked with a quiet grace, her footsteps leaving no trace on the earth. The villagers called her the Fox's Whisper, for her voice was said to be like the wind, soft, elusive, and full of secrets. She did not speak to them directly, but but her presence was felt in strange ways. Crops grew fuller, but shadows lengthened unnaturally. Children dreamed of distant lands, yet woke with a lingering fear. No one knew why she had come or what she wanted. In the days that followed, the village saw changes. Some people felt a lightness in their hearts, as if a blessing had touched them. Others grew restless, their minds clouded with confusion. The boundary between reality and dream seemed thinner, and the forest's whispers grew louder. The elders grew wary, sensing the delicate balance was shifting. The fox's whisper moved unseen among them. She watched with eyes that saw beyond the present, beyond the human world. Her nature was tied to the cycles of the moon and the hidden currents of magic. She was drawn to the village for reasons even she could not fully understand. There was a stirring in her ancient soul, a yearning for something lost long ago. The villagers began to notice strange marks appearing on their doorways, delicate symbols traced in the dust, glowing faintly under the moonlight. Some believed these marks were blessings, others feared they were curses. No one dared erase them. The fox's whisper was leaving her mark, weaving herself into the village's fate. One night, the full moon hung low and heavy in the sky. A chill wind swept through the valley, carrying the scent of jasmine and smoke. The villagers huddled inside their homes, windows shuttered tight. Outside, the forest seemed alive with movement. Shadows danced between the trees, and the air thrummed with unseen energy. The fox's whisper stood at the boundary between the village and the forest. Her many tails flicked like flames, casting a soft light that pulsed with magic. She raised her hands to the sky, and the stars seemed to respond, twinkling brighter, as if listening. In that moment, the veil between worlds grew thin, and the spirits of the forest stirred. Some villagers dreamed that night of a beautiful fox with eyes full of sadness and wisdom. She wandered through their thoughts, a silent guardian and a warning. They awoke with a sense of both hope and dread, knowing that something profound was unfolding, but unsure what it might mean. The next morning, the village awoke to find that the river running through the valley had changed. The water was clearer, sparkling like glass, and the fish swam in greater numbers. It was a blessing, yet the elders felt uneasy. The fox's whisper had altered the natural order, and such power came at a price. Rumors spread that the fox spirit sought to awaken something hidden beneath the earth, an ancient magic buried deep within the forest. This magic could bring great prosperity or terrible destruction. The villagers were caught between awe and fear, unsure whether to welcome the change or resist it. As the days passed, more signs appeared. Animals behaved strangely. Deer gathered in unusual places. Birds sang haunting melodies, and even the trees seemed to lean closer as if listening. The fox's whisper was everywhere and nowhere, a presence that could not be ignored. A young farmer, curious and brave, decided to follow the trail into the forest. He ventured deeper than anyone dared, drawn by the soft glow and the distant sound of laughter. The forest thickened around him, shadows weaving like silk between the branches. He saw glimpses of the fox spirit, flashes of silver fur and eyes like burning embers, always just beyond reach. The deeper he went, the more the forest seemed alive with magic. The air shimmered with colors unseen in the day, and the ground pulsed with a gentle heartbeat. He felt a strange connection to this place, as if the forest was calling him home. Suddenly he came upon a clearing bathed in moonlight. At its center was an ancient tree, its bark twisted and glowing with runes. The fox's whisper appeared beside the tree, her form shifting between woman and fox. She looked at him with eyes full of ancient knowledge and sadness. Though he could not understand her words, he felt the weight of her message. The fox spirit was a guardian of balance, caught between worlds. Her presence was both a gift and a warning. The magic she awakened could change everything if the villagers were not careful. He returned to the village, carrying the memory of the forest's secret. He tried to warn the others, but the fox's whisper's influence was strong. Some dismissed his tale as fantasy, while others felt the stirring of something greater. The village stood at a crossroads. The shadow of the fox spirit had touched their lives, and nothing would ever be the same. The gentle rhythm of their days was now mixed with the pulse of ancient magic, the whisper of a power older than time itself. This was only the beginning. The fox's whisper had come, a shadow in the village, a mystery that would unfold in ways no one could predict. The forest's secret was waking, and with it, the fate of the village would be tested. The moon hung low over the quiet village, casting a silver light that made the night seem almost magical. Shadows moved gently between the trees, and a soft, flickering glow danced through the dark forest. This light was not from fire or stars, but from the mysterious foxfire, a shimmering glow said to come from the tales of fox spirits. The villagers spoke in whispers about these lights, warning children to stay away from the woods when the foxfire appeared. Many believed the fox spirits were dangerous, tricksters who used their beauty and magic to lure humans into traps. Among these spirits was a Huli Jing known for her extraordinary beauty. Her fur was as white as freshly fallen snow, and her 9 tails flickered with a soft golden light. She was not an ordinary fox, but a creature who had lived many lifetimes, learning the ancient arts of illusion and enchantment. The Huli Jing was both admired and feared because she could change her shape to appear as a stunning woman or a delicate fox, depending on what she wished to do. On this night, the Huli Jing walked silently through the forest, her footsteps leaving no trace on the soft earth. She moved toward the village, drawn by a deep curiosity about the humans who lived there. Unlike many of her kind, she did not seek to harm or trick the villagers. Instead, she longed to understand their world, their joys, and their sorrows. But she knew that her true form was dangerous to reveal. The villagers might see her as a threat, or worse, hunt her out of fear. Using her magic, the Huli Jing wove an illusion over herself. Her white fur transformed into flowing black hair, and her sharp fox eyes became soft and inviting. She took on the form of a young woman with delicate features and a mysterious smile. The golden light from her tails dimmed, hidden beneath the illusion's veil. Now she was ready to enter the village unnoticed. As she stepped into the narrow streets, the air changed. The usual sounds of nighttime, chirping crickets, rustling leaves, and distant owl calls, seemed to fade beneath the hush of her presence. People who glanced her way felt a strange pull, a mixture of admiration and unease. Some whispered that she was a spirit of the forest come to bless the village. Others felt a shiver, sensing the magic beneath her beauty. The Huli Jing moved gracefully past homes and shops, her senses sharp and alert. She observed the villagers' simple lives, the old man repairing a wooden cart, a mother rocking her baby to sleep, children dreaming of adventures. She longed to be part of this world, but knew she could never truly belong. Her existence was tied to the spirit realm, and her magic came at a price. Under the soft glow of lanterns, the illusion began to slip. A faint flicker of foxfire escaped from her fingertips, a golden spark that betrayed her true nature. A small boy saw the light and followed it, curiosity overcoming caution. The Huli Jing noticed, but did not stop him. She was careful to keep her distance, wanting to teach rather than frighten. The boy reached a clearing where the trees opened to the night sky. The foxfire danced in the air, forming shapes and patterns that seemed alive. The Huli Jing's tails shimmered behind her, casting light that made the shadows flicker like ghosts. She moved closer to the boy, her voice silent, but her presence warm. In that moment, the illusion of beauty gave way to the truth, a magical being standing between worlds. The boy was not afraid. Instead, he watched with wide eyes, fascinated by the light and the spirit who controlled it. The Huli Jing felt a connection, rare and fragile, between her world and his. She reached out with her magic, sending a gentle breeze that lifted the boy's hair and whispered secrets of the forest. Though he could not understand, the boy knew something special was happening. But the village was not far, and not all who lived there would see the encounter as a blessing. Some feared the fox spirits because of old tales, stories of trickery, lost travelers, and disappearing children. They believed the Huli Jing's beauty was a trap, a mask hiding a dangerous heart. The lines between truth and myth blurred in their minds, and fear grew like a shadow over the land. The Huli Jing understood this fear well. She had seen how humans could turn from wonder to wrath when faced with what they did not understand. To protect herself, she often relied on illusions, weaving beauty and charm to confuse those who sought to harm her. But illusions came with a cost. Each time she used her magic to hide, a part of her true self faded, leaving behind a hollow shell. On this night, the Huli Jing felt the weight of her power more deeply than ever. She longed to be seen for who she really was, not just a trickster or a legend. Yet she also knew that revealing her true form could bring danger to the boy and the village. The golden light from her tails pulsed softly, like a heartbeat echoing in the dark. As the boy stood watching, a sudden noise broke the quiet, a shout from the village, harsh and angry. Men with torches and weapons were coming, alerted by the flickering foxfire. They believed they were protecting their homes from a threat and would not hesitate to strike. The Huli Jing acted quickly, wrapping the clearing in a veil of mist and shadows. Her tails flickered with bright light, sending a wave of warmth that calmed the boy's fear. She whispered ancient words of protection, creating a barrier between herself, the child, and the angry villagers. The men arrived just as the mist swallowed the clearing, their torches casting long beams into the thick fog. They called out, searching for the source of the light, but found only silence. Frustration grew in their voices, and some cursed the spirits of the forest for their tricks. Inside the mist, the Huli Jing and the boy were safe. She looked down at him, a sadness in her eyes that words could never express. The boy smiled, touched by the kindness behind the magical display. The bond they shared, though silent and fragile, was a promise of something greater, an understanding between the human world and the spirit realm. But the night was far from over. The Huli Jing knew that this moment of peace was temporary. Her secret was out, and the fear of the villagers would not fade easily. She needed to find a way to protect those she cared for without losing herself to the illusions that kept her safe. With a final flick of her tails, the golden foxfire faded into the night sky. The mist began to lift, and the clearing returned to its natural state. The boy blinked, wondering if the magical encounter had been a dream. The Huli Jing vanished into the shadows, her true form hidden once again. The village slowly returned to calm, but the memory of the foxfire lingered like a whisper in the wind. Some spoke of a beautiful woman seen at the edge of the forest, others of a mysterious light that guided a lost child home. Fear mixed with wonder, and the stories grew with each telling. In the quiet moments between night and dawn, the Huli Jing wandered beneath the stars, torn between two worlds. She carried the secret of her beauty and the burden of her magic, forever caught in the delicate dance of illusion and truth. Her story was far from over. In the heart of an ancient forest, where the mist curled like delicate silk through towering bamboo, the air hummed with magic and secrets. It was here that the Huli Jing, the fox spirits known for their cunning and beauty, wandered unseen by most humans. These foxes were not ordinary animals. With fur that shimmered in moonlight and eyes that glowed with otherworldly wisdom, they moved between worlds, the world of men and the realm of spirits. Their nature was complex, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, always mysterious. Among these fox spirits was a young one named Lianhua. She had lived in the forest for many years, learning the arts of illusion and transformation. Like all Huli Jing, she could shapeshift into a human form, appearing as a woman of breathtaking beauty. Her hair fell like dark waterfalls, and her gaze held the power to enchant and confuse those who looked too long. But unlike some of her kin, Lianhua's heart was restless. She was curious about humans, about their lives and feelings, which seemed so fragile and fleeting compared to the eternal flow of spirit magic. One evening, as the crimson sun dipped behind the distant mountains, Lianhua watched a small village from the edge of the forest. The villagers moved through their routines, unaware of the spirit eyes watching from the shadows. She saw laughter, tears, arguments, and moments of quiet kindness. All things the fox spirit could never truly understand or feel. Yet a longing stirred inside her, a desire to experience these fleeting human emotions firsthand. Driven by this yearning, Lianhua decided to approach the village. She took the form of a young woman, dressed simply but elegantly, her presence both inviting and enigmatic. She stepped into the flickering torchlight of the village square just as night embraced the world. Humans noticed her immediately. Whispers passed between them. She was a stranger, yet strangely familiar, like a dream half remembered. Lianhua moved with grace, weaving through the crowd, her eyes searching for something, or someone, to connect with. But in this world, her beauty was both a gift and a weapon. It drew attention, yes, but also suspicion. Villagers spoke of strange happenings in the forest, crops failing, livestock missing, eerie lights flickering among the trees. Old tales warned of fox spirits who made bargains with humans, trading favors for their souls or lives. Such stories bred fear, and fear bred hatred. Lianhua knew she had to be cautious. She could not reveal her true nature. Yet, to live among humans and taste their emotions, she needed something more, a bargain. One night, under the pale glow of the full moon, Lianhua wandered to the edge of the village where an ancient well stood. It was said that the well connected to the spirit world, a thin veil between two realities. She whispered an ancient incantation, her voice soft as the wind, and the water began to shimmer like molten silver. From the depths emerged a figure, neither fully human nor entirely spirit. This being was a guardian of bargains, keeper of promises, and dealer of fates. Its eyes glowed like embers, and its presence filled the air with a heavy silence. Lianhua bowed her head in respect. She knew the cost of bargains with such beings could be steep, but her desire outweighed her fear. She offered a trade, her foxfire, a magical flame that burned in her spirit, for a chance to live as a human for a time, to feel love and pain, joy and sorrow, to learn what it meant to be mortal. The guardian regarded her with a knowing smile. Such deals were never simple. If the bargain was made, Lianhua would gain humanity, but something precious would be taken in return, a part of her essence, a link to her immortal self. The deal was struck, the terms whispered and sealed beneath the moonlight. The next morning, Lianhua awoke not in the forest, but in a small cottage by the village's edge. She was fully human now, with a beating heart that raced with excitement and fear. The world seemed sharper, fuller. Colors were brighter, sounds louder. She tasted the crisp morning air with wonder. But the change brought challenges. Without her foxfire, Lianhua's powers were limited. She could no longer summon illusions at will or vanish into mist. She was vulnerable. This vulnerability was foreign and frightening. The villagers who once feared the mysterious stranger now saw her as one of their own. She worked alongside them, helped in fields, and joined in their festivals. She laughed, cried, and dreamed like any human, discovering emotions she had only observed from afar. Yet the bargain was not without its dangers. The guardian's presence lingered like a shadow. Whenever Lianhua's heart swelled with hope or love, she felt a cold whisper reminding her of the price she paid. She was caught between two worlds, neither fully fox spirit nor wholly human. Worse still, some villagers began to suspect her true nature. Strange signs appeared, footprints that vanished suddenly, glimpses of a tail in the corner of an eye, and a faint otherworldly glow around her at night. Fear returned, stronger than before. Tensions rose. Some called for her banishment, others for her destruction. The delicate balance between her desire for humanity and the danger of discovery teetered on a knife's edge. In moments of solitude, Lianhua wrestled with regret and determination. She knew the bargain could not last forever. The foxfire was fading, slipping away like embers in the wind. Each day, the line between her two selves blurred more. Yet, the human experiences she cherished gave her strength. She had touched the fragile beauty of mortal life, tasted the sweetness of love and the bitterness of loss. These gifts, she decided, were worth any cost. But in the depths of the forest, hidden eyes watched. Other fox spirits whispered warnings, calling her foolish and reckless. The ancient balance between spirit and man was fragile. Crossing it could awaken dangers far greater than fears or suspicion. As the moon waned and the seasons shifted, Lianhua's time as a human grew shorter. The bargain's price loomed closer. What would she sacrifice? Her fading humanity, or the last spark of her immortal essence? The story was far from over. In the dance between desire and danger, the fox spirit's fate remained uncertain, caught between two worlds and two selves, on the edge of a choice that could change everything. The night was thick with mist, a dense cloak that veiled the village in a ghostly silence. The moon, pale and hesitant, cast a cold light through the tangled branches of ancient trees. Somewhere in the distance, the faint flicker of foxfire glowed, casting eerie shadows that danced like restless spirits. This was the hour when the boundary between worlds grew thin, and the true nature of things began to reveal itself. For years, the village had lived in uneasy peace with the presence of the Huli Jing, the fox spirits that roamed the forests around them. These beings were neither wholly evil nor fully kind. They were creatures of immense power and deep mystery, capable of weaving illusions so convincing they could bend the hearts of men and twist the very fabric of reality. Many whispered that these fox spirits had the ability to change shape at will, often appearing as beautiful women or cunning men to lure unsuspecting souls into their realm. Among the many tales told around flickering hearths, none was as chilling and as compelling as the story of one fox spirit in particular, a spirit whose heart had once been consumed by vengeance, but whose fate now hovered on the edge of redemption or ruin. Long ago, this Huli Jing had been a guardian of the forest, a protector of its balance and sacred laws. She was revered among her kind, known for her wisdom and strength. But that was before betrayal seeped into her life like poison. A cruel wound inflicted by humans, a betrayal born from fear and greed, shattered her trust. The village hunters had hunted her kin, destroying sacred groves and killing without mercy. In her sorrow and rage, she transformed, her spirit darkening like a storm cloud ready to break. No longer the gentle guardian, she became a force of wrath. She haunted the village edges, sowing discord and misfortune. Crops withered, livestock vanished, and whispers of curses spread like wildfire. The villagers grew desperate, torn between fear of the fox spirit's vengeance and the yearning to restore harmony. But time, as it always does, softened the sharp edges of anger. The Huli Jing found herself at a crossroads, torn between the desire to punish those who wronged her and the fading memories of the peace she once upheld. It was in this fragile balance that the story now unfolds. On this misty night, the spirit stood at the boundary where the forest met the village, her eyes glowing with an ethereal light that pierced the darkness. Her 9 tails flicked slowly, each one shimmering with ancient power. Her form was beautiful but wild, a blend of human grace and untamed nature, a living embodiment of the complex forces she held within. As she gazed into the sleeping village, memories surged like a tide. She remembered the days when humans and fox spirits lived in harmony, sharing the forest's bounty and respecting the old ways. She remembered the laughter of children playing beneath the trees, the soft hum of life that once thrived here, but those memories clashed violently with the recent past, the bloodshed, the broken promises, the relentless fear. In her heart a struggle raged. The spirit's magic shimmered uneasily, threatening to spill over into destruction or healing. The fate of the village and the forest itself seemed intertwined with the choice she was about to make. The wind carried faint sounds, the distant call of an owl, the rustle of leaves stirred by unseen footsteps. The spirit's senses sharpened, detecting subtle shifts in the air. There was something approaching, a presence unlike any she had encountered for many seasons. Emerging from the shadows was a figure cloaked in simple robes, carrying no weapon, moving with calm certainty. This was no ordinary villager, but someone who sought not to fight or flee, but to understand. The spirit's eyes narrowed as she studied the figure, sensing a different kind of power, one rooted not in anger or force, but in wisdom and compassion. The figure stopped at the edge of the forest, meeting the spirit's gaze without fear. A silent communication passed between them, a dialogue of souls beyond words. The spirit felt the first stirrings of something long buried, the hope for redemption. But redemption was never simple. It demanded more than remorse or forgiveness. It required change, sacrifice, and the courage to face the truth of one's nature. The spirit knew this all too well. To choose healing over revenge meant confronting the darkness inside and risking vulnerability in a world that had shown little mercy. For the villagers, this night was a turning point they could not yet grasp. They were caught in the web of their own fears and prejudices, unaware of the spirit's internal battle or the possibility that she might choose to protect them once more. The forest seemed to hold its breath as the moment stretched, suspended between what had been and what could be. The spirit's 9 tails flicked again, slow and deliberate, a signal of her shifting resolve. Around them, the ancient trees whispered secrets in the language of rustling leaves and creaking branches. The air was thick with magic, wild and raw, dangerous and beautiful. It was a place where legends were born and destinies forged. As the figure bowed slightly and turned back toward the village, the spirit retreated into the shadows, her form dissolving into the mist like a wisp of smoke. But the light in her eyes lingered, a promise of a story still unfolding, a path not yet decided. In the days to come, the village would face trials that tested their courage and compassion. The fox spirit's choice would ripple through their lives, challenging old beliefs and opening doors to new understanding. Whether she would bring destruction or salvation, revenge or redemption, was a question only time could answer. For now, the forest held its secrets close, waiting for the next chapter to be written. In the quiet depths of a remote Chinese village, where mist clings to ancient trees and the moon casts eerie shadows over the rooftops, an old legend stirs from the silence. This is the story of the Jiangshi, the dreaded hopping corpse, and a night when the boundary between the living and the dead breaks. It is a night when fear takes shape and the curse of the undead leaps across the land. Long ago, in a time when the world was ruled by superstition and ancient spirits, the villagers lived in harmony with nature and the unseen forces around them. They knew the power of life and death, and they respected the restless souls who wandered the earth after passing beyond. Among these restless spirits, none were more feared than the Jiangshi. These creatures were said to be corpses reanimated by dark magic or a soul that failed to move on. Unlike the peaceful dead who passed quietly into the afterlife, Jiangshi were twisted beings trapped between life and death, driven by a relentless hunger for life energy. The Jiangshi moved in a way unlike any creature. Their bodies were stiff, their limbs rigid as if frozen by ice, forcing them to hop rather than walk. Their faces were pale and lifeless, with glowing red eyes that pierced through the darkness. It was said that even the sound of their hopping feet could bring terror to anyone who heard it in the dead of night. To encounter a Jiangshi was to face a fate worse than death itself. On this particular night, the village was cloaked in an unnatural stillness. The air was thick with tension, and a cold wind whispered warnings through the bamboo groves. The villagers had heard rumors of strange happenings in the nearby forest. Livestock found lifeless, crops withered overnight, and eerie shadows flickering between the trees. An unspoken fear spread quietly, but no one dared speak of the Jiangshi aloud, for fear that naming the curse would invite it closer. The trouble began when a wandering stranger arrived at the village gates, just as dusk was falling. Cloaked and silent, the stranger carried with him a mysterious box wrapped in faded silk. No one knew his name or where he came from, but his arrival unsettled the villagers deeply. That night, the stranger was seen walking toward the old burial grounds on the hill, where ancestors were laid to rest beneath ancient stone markers. The villagers watched from their windows, shadows flickering in the candlelight as he vanished into the fog. As midnight approached, a chilling sound began to echo through the village, a rhythmic thumping that grew louder and more relentless. It was the unmistakable sound of hopping feet coming closer and closer. The villagers' hearts pounded as they hurried to secure their doors and windows, lighting incense and scattering protective charms around their homes. These charms were carved with ancient symbols meant to ward off evil spirits. But even so, the sense of doom was overwhelming. The hopping sound stopped suddenly near the edge of the village. A figure appeared in the moonlight, pale and stiff, its arms outstretched and eyes glowing like burning embers. It was a Jiangshi. The creature's presence was unnatural, as if death itself had taken a form to haunt the living. The Jiangshi began moving through the village, its hopping steady and unyielding, searching for its prey. Wherever it passed, the air grew colder, and the living felt their life energy wane under its gaze. Panic spread quickly. The villagers tried to flee, but the narrow paths and tangled streets made escape difficult. Some tried to use talismans and mirrors, which were said to reflect the Jiangshi's soul and drive it away. Others threw handfuls of powdered garlic and crushed herbs, ancient remedies believed to disrupt the creature's magic. But the Jiangshi was relentless, hopping toward the heart of the village with unstoppable force. The elder of the village, a wise Taoist priest, recognized the signs immediately. He knew that this was no ordinary spirit, but a cursed soul bound to the world by dark sorcery. The Jiangshi had been awakened, likely by the stranger's box, a container holding forbidden magic, perhaps a relic of a forgotten war between life and death. The priest gathered his scrolls and ritual tools, preparing to face the creature before more harm could come. Outside, the Jiangshi's presence grew stronger. Its glowing eyes scanned every shadow, and the villagers' breath came in quick gasps. The night air was thick with fear and the faint scent of decay. The creature moved closer to the village square, where the elder had set up an altar covered with protective symbols drawn in red ink. He began chanting prayers, his voice low and steady, as he lit incense that burned with a strange blue flame. Suddenly, the Jiangshi halted at the altar, its hopping ceasing, as if the power of the ritual forced it to stop. The creature's glowing eyes flickered, and for a moment, a faint expression of pain passed across its lifeless face. The villagers watched in silence, hoping that the elder's magic could hold the creature at bay until dawn. But the curse was strong. The Jiangshi thrashed violently, as if struggling against invisible chains. The elder intensified his chants, waving a sword inscribed with sacred characters through the air, slicing through the thick darkness that clung to the creature. Sparks flew from the blade as it struck the Jiangshi, but the monster did not fall. It was trapped, but not defeated. In that moment, a sudden scream shattered the tense silence. From the shadows, the stranger who had brought the box appeared once more, moving swiftly toward the altar. Without hesitation, he reached inside his cloak and revealed a talisman pulsing with golden light. The stranger raised the talisman high and muttered an incantation that seemed to ripple through the night air itself. The golden light enveloped the Jiangshi, causing it to convulse and struggle even harder. The villagers shielded their eyes from the radiant glow, feeling warmth return to the cold night. Slowly, the creature's hopping slowed and then stopped entirely. The glowing eyes dimmed and the stiff limbs relaxed. The stranger stepped forward and carefully placed the box beside the altar. Inside, a fragile scroll lay, written with ancient wisdom about how to break the curse that bound the Jiangshi. The elder took the scroll and began reading aloud the sacred rites that would finally set the tormented soul free. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the villagers felt the heavy weight of fear begin to lift. The Jiangshi, once a terrifying symbol of death's curse, was now at rest. The village had survived the night of the hopping curse, but the memory of that dark night would linger in their hearts forever. The stranger vanished as mysteriously as he had come, leaving behind only the scroll and the whispered legend of the Jiangshi's return. The villagers knew this was only the beginning of a deeper mystery, one that would challenge their understanding of life, death, and the power of ancient magic. In a small village nestled between misty mountains and dense bamboo forests, an ancient darkness had begun to stir. The villagers spoke in hushed tones of strange happenings, crops wilting without reason, livestock disappearing in the dead of night, and eerie sounds that echoed beneath the moonlight. The source of these troubles was no ordinary threat, but a terrifying creature of legend, the Jiangshi, a hopping corpse trapped between life and death. Long ago, the Jiangshi had been a man, a proud warrior who fell victim to a cruel fate. Cursed by dark magic and unburied, his restless spirit had returned to the world of the living. His body, stiff and pale as death itself, moved with unnatural hops, arms outstretched and eyes glowing with a chilling light. Wherever the Jiangshi appeared, fear and despair followed, draining the life force of those who crossed its path. The villagers, unable to fight this supernatural menace, sought help from a wandering Taoist priest known for his knowledge of spirits and exorcisms. The Taoist arrived quietly, carrying ancient scrolls and ritual tools that gleamed under the moon. He understood that the Jiangshi was bound by dark energy, and the only way to stop it was to bind it further using a sacred seal. This seal was an intricate talisman, inscribed with holy characters and charged with spiritual power through chanting and incense smoke. Without it, the Jiangshi could not be controlled or laid to rest. In preparation for the ritual, the Taoist explored the forest, following the faint traces of the creature's path. Broken branches, footprints that seemed to freeze the earth beneath them, and patches of withered grass marked the trail. At the edge of a forgotten cemetery, he found the Jiangshi lurking among cracked tombstones and wilted flowers. Its hollow gaze fixed upon the priest, sensing the challenge ahead. The Taoist raised his staff and began the sacred chant, his voice steady despite the cold night air. Slowly he drew the seal on a piece of yellowed parchment, ink flowing like liquid fire. The air thickened with spiritual energy, swirling around the circle of the ritual. The Jiangshi reacted violently, its stiff limbs jerking as it attempted to break free from the invisible bonds. Its growls, low and hollow, echoed through the trees like the sound of a dying wind. Time seemed to stretch as the battle of wills unfolded. The Taoist, unwavering, continued to chant, pouring his inner strength into the seal. The talisman glowed faintly, then brighter, until it was a beacon in the darkness. With a final burst of energy, the Taoist hurled the talisman at the Jiangshi. The creature froze instantly, trapped in a web of glowing runes that seeped into its flesh like chains of light. Despite the seal's power, the Jiangshi was far from defeated. It thrashed and hopped erratically, attempting to escape the confines of the talisman's magic. The priest knew that binding it was only the first step. To prevent the creature from breaking free again, he had to find the source of the dark curse that animated the corpse. The search led him deeper into the forest, where ancient ruins lay buried beneath vines and moss. Among the crumbling stones was an altar stained with age-old blood and dark incense ashes. The Taoist recognized this as the place where the curse had been cast. Symbols carved into the stone glowed faintly, pulsing with malevolent energy. With careful hands, the priest placed his talismans and charms around the altar, creating a protective barrier. He began another ritual, calling upon the elements and spirits of the land. Fire flickered in the lanterns, wind whispered through the leaves, and the ground beneath trembled slightly. The curse resisted, fighting to hold on to the power it had given the Jiangshi. Hours passed, and exhaustion threatened the Taoist's resolve. Yet his faith and training sustained him. As dawn approached, the curse's glow dimmed, its hold weakening. With one final invocation, the Taoist smashed a jade amulet onto the altar, shattering it and breaking the dark spell. The air cleared, and the oppressive weight that had hung over the forest lifted. The Jiangshi, still bound by the seal, now stood motionless as the life-draining energy vanished. The curse had been broken. Slowly the stiff body softened, and the glowing eyes faded to black. The restless spirit was finally free to move on to peace. The villagers watched from afar as the Taoist returned, weary but victorious. The crops began to flourish again, the livestock returned, and the nights were quiet once more. Though the Jiangshi was gone, the tale of the Taoist seal became a lasting legend, a reminder that even the darkest forces could be overcome with knowledge, courage, and ancient wisdom. The village lay quiet under a silver moon, shadows stretching long across the bamboo groves, where the eerie stillness held a secret that few dared speak of. Deep in the forest, an ancient tomb stood forgotten by time, its stone doors cracked and covered with moss. Within this grave rested a Jiangshi, the infamous hopping corpse, trapped between the worlds of the living and the dead. For decades, the creature had been bound by a powerful Taoist talisman, its stiff limbs frozen in a pose of restless sleep. But the balance of nature is fragile, and when a fierce storm tore through the region, the tomb seal was broken, releasing a cold wind that whispered of unfinished business. The Jiangshi stirred, its eyes glowing faintly with an otherworldly light, a flicker of awareness hidden deep beneath its undead shell. Unlike others of its kind driven only by blind hunger for life energy, this Jiangshi carried within it a hidden spark, a lost fragment of a human heart that longed for peace. As the villagers sensed the disturbance, fear gripped their hearts, and old legends warned of the destruction the Jiangshi could bring. But the elders also spoke of an ancient ritual, a way to awaken the Jiangshi's heart and release it from eternal torment. The key to this ritual lay not in violence or exile, but in understanding the soul trapped inside the undead form. The story begins with a young healer named Lian, who, unlike others, refused to see the Jiangshi as a mere monster. She believed that the restless spirit could be soothed, and that the creature might have been wronged in life, doomed by an injustice that cursed it beyond death. Guided by her determination, Lian journeyed to the heart of the forest where the tomb lay, carrying sacred herbs and scrolls with prayers for peace. As she approached, the air grew cold, and the faint glow from the Jiangshi's eyes illuminated the mist that curled around the ancient trees. She could feel the creature's power, but also a strange sadness, like a shadow of its lost humanity. Lian prepared the ritual ground, placing protective symbols and incense to ward off evil, while whispering chants taught by the Taoist masters. The ritual required her to connect with the Jiangshi's spirit, to reach the heart buried deep within its undead shell. At first, the creature resisted, hopping stiffly and emitting a chilling aura that froze the air. But Lian's calm and steady presence began to ease the creature's rage. She used the sacred herbs to cleanse the tomb's entrance, releasing the stale energy trapped inside. Slowly, the Jiangshi's movement softened, and the cold glow in its eyes flickered as if recognizing a faint warmth. As dawn approached, Lian invoked the final part of the ritual, a blessing to awaken the Jiangshi's heart. She called upon the ancient forces of yin and yang, asking them to restore balance and allow the lost soul to find rest. The Jiangshi's stiff body trembled, and for a moment, a flicker of a human expression appeared on its pale face. Memories surfaced like mist, of a life lived long ago, a betrayal that led to death, and a desperate wish for redemption. The undead form began to crumble, not into dust, but into a soft light that enveloped the forest floor. The villagers who had gathered cautiously outside the woods felt a wave of calm wash over them, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. The Jiangshi's curse was broken, not through force, but through compassion and understanding. In the days that followed, the tomb was sealed again, this time with prayers of gratitude and peace. Lian became a legend herself, known as the healer who dared to see the heart within the monster, reminding all that even the darkest spirits can find light if given a chance. The forest grew quiet once more, but the story of the Jiangshi's awakening was passed down through generations as a tale of hope, forgiveness, and the power of the human heart to heal even the deepest wounds of death. The end.